Okay, so today I'm calling today's class Mourning Together. Okay? Mourning, like M-O-U-R-N. So it's cool. I really worked hard to figure out what the title would be, but I think this is going to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch a video. But first I want to set up the video so you really kind of understand where the class is going. So it's important that you really, wait, hang on, laptop's away. Stay focused right now when I'm going to lay something out to you. This is one of those rare times when I'm going to put something up on the screen and explain it to you. So go to the first slide. So D-E-I-B, there's the I and the B that we never talked about. I mean, we're going to talk about it today, but indirectly. And when we're talking about the I is inclusion, that means you really are including all of the parts into the whole, which means there's a whole that people can see and they can feel connected to. And because that's what creates belonging. Okay? So we're going to give an example of inclusion and belonging today. We're going to talk about that, what that means in certain contexts. So go to the next slide. As we go through life, we're always thinking about and making decisions about what is right and what is wrong, and what is good and what is bad. And in every culture, the way people answer those questions is organized and structured in ways that are unique to that culture. And many cultures share some of the frames of a moral order, but there's an ordering of morality. So like, in the United States, there's kind of a sense of shared understanding of what's right, what's wrong, what's good, and what's bad. Okay? But this is essential to humans living life. So go to the next slide. So there are these two dimensions of a moral order. There are many dimensions of it, but there's this, I guess, really one dimension that's really important. And that's, do we lean toward, when I'm deciding what's right and what's wrong, do I lean toward what's right and wrong for everybody around me? Or do I lean toward thinking about what's right and what's wrong according to what I personally think is right and wrong? What's right and wrong for me? So when I'm thinking about this, the way I act in the world, the way I drive, if I'm going down College Avenue in my car, and I think about whether I'm late, should I speed? Like, I really should speed and go above the speed limit. Are you thinking, I should do that because I can't miss this meeting, and this meeting is important for me, and I have to think about me, because if something happens, I am going to be in trouble because I missed this meeting. Okay? Do you lean that way, or are your thoughts dominated by, but I don't want to hit somebody, and I don't want to speed and run the risk of running someone over, and I don't want to show other people that it's okay to speed. Maybe I'll see someone that I know, and they'll see me speeding, and they'll be like, hey, what's up with that? And maybe I'll just get a ticket, and I'll get scolded by the police. Maybe it's just like, it's just not a good thing to do because other people aren't speeding, and I want to be safe for everybody. Do you lean in that direction? And every decision we make is somehow framed by right and wrong, good and bad. And we're always going to lean one way, or we're going to lean another way. And cultures tend to lean one way, or they tend to lean another way. So everybody in a culture is kind of looking around at other people, and they're saying, like, hey, how are they acting? Like, how should I think about this? How should I act? Well, what are other people doing? Like, I want to fit in with other people. I want to, I want to be a good citizen. I want to be a good community member. In other cultures, most people are thinking like, well, whatever. I'm just going to do what's right for me. I'm not really going to pay a lot of attention to other people. And we generally cultures lean in one direction or another. Okay? All right, so next slide. So I have a friend in Korea. I have a lot of friends in Korea, but I have one in particular, an old friend, one of the very first friends who I made. The first person who actually reached out to me back in 2018, maybe. She was working for a television station, Arirang, and she reached out to me and we did an interview together, and then we just became friends. And we now work together. We have a project that we're working on together, and a couple projects actually. And the other night, we were having a conversation, or a couple weeks ago, about something that happened in Korea. And I said, you know what, I gotta talk to her and interview her and have you watch it. And then we're gonna have a conversation about it with some of your classmates, okay? So you're gonna watch this conversation with Soomin and I. All right, so let's. There was an airplane crash in Muan Airport in the south of Korea, and it was 179 people died and 2 flight attendants survived, and so it was a major catastrophe. And there was a week of mourning or a national mourning period. How many days was it?
So it was starting from that day to like 7 days. So it was 29th to January 4th.
And how was it announced? Like, how did you know? Was it just everywhere, all over the media that this?
All over the media, and the government actually declared that it's going to be the national mourning period, which means like the entire country collectively grieves for the victim of that major tragedy.
So when you say collectively grieved, what do you mean? Like what did people do?
So in terms of government act, they set up like a altar in all 17 major cities for citizens to pay like their respect. But also public officials should wear like black ribbons as a symbol of mourning. The key point here is that not only government do that, but how Korean citizens and media went like beyond these official measures to show that grief, and people just don't do what they do normally, like party or post like something goofy in their social media, or even like the entertainment programs were all shut down to show the respect.
So there are a lot of, say, like comedy shows and various channels and so on. So they those shows just didn't air that
Yeah,
week.
completely shut down. And most of the time in the broadcasting station were used to like for the news coverage for the updates, not the entertainment shows at all.
Wow. Were there sporting events? But there were, but they just weren't on
And
television or.
exactly. So even like the end of the year in Korea, we have like a year-end show to uh like an award show recognizing the year's top actors, dramas, and variety shows. And it's like a thing of a family to watch that all together, like party together. But this year that didn't happen, and it was aired like just a week ago, like end of
Wow.
January. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I know the last two New Year's, Lori and I participated in the show for SM Entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
and we spoke. That's New Year's Eve also, right? All the
Exactly.
celebrations in New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Were-
So it didn't happen, and also it really reduced in scale. So in
mhm,
the last day of December, we usually do like a bell ringing ceremony,
mhm.
which is similar to like a Times Square New Year's countdown, and it was significantly reduced in scales. And people try not to do partying, gathering up, and drinking type of things. Yeah.
Wow. So people went out to restaurants and bars and things, but it was all kind of muted, would you say?
Yeah, exactly. Like no colors kind of thing.
Wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened? So I remember reading about the one party boat that went out
Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
the Han River and on New Year's Eve, and they, drank and had dinner and shot off fireworks, and they were then suspended. That company was suspended for 6 months or something.
Yeah, exactly. So, in Korea, it seemed like people who do like the party boat thing seem really not insensitive. I mean, about like
Yeah.
how Korea should react to this response. Like people always think of it as, what if that was our family? We shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
What if that was
So,
my friend? Hmm.
wow. Okay. So okay. How many people really seriously participated? You know, when you say the whole country,
Hmm.
is it really the whole country?
I mean, actually, some people would not feel that way in their mind, but the thing
Yeah.
is, everyone is watching every other, so
Yeah. Yeah.
they would not try to just express that out like the party vote. That was like an extreme case.
Even still, maybe a lot of people don't really feel it in their hearts and mind, but it seems like most people did.
Actually did. Yeah,
Yeah.
so not
Wow.
the people just not posted their like everyday posts in their social media, but they
Yeah.
all posted like the griefs and sadness to the victims, really. And I noticed that like the YouTubers and content creators, they all stopped as well, even though that's like the how they made their incomes. But the the ones who did upload their videos were actually attacked from the
Mm.
comment, like how could you do that type of thing.
Wow.
Hmm.
So if they uploaded videos, YouTubers, they would have to be a video related to this.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
in my class, for example, if I'm making a social anything video
Mm-hmm.
for Korea, it
Mm-hmm.
better it would need to be really addressing the
Uh,
mourning period and
mm-hmm. Morning period, but like other topics related to current affairs, that's fine, but not like the
got you.
media thing and entertaining thing, everyone laughing. That's inappropriate.
Got you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, how is this? How do you explain this? I mean, I have my explanation for it, but, and, I'm going to have my students talk about it, but how do you as a Korean explain how, the Korean citizenry,
Mm-hmm.
the citizens, the public, come
So
together in this way and do this?
mornings is not like a personal choice, but it's like an unspoken social expectation that everyone participates in some way, whether that's like a
Mhm.
public behavior or in media or like a really personal actions doing the charity funding. But for Koreans, it feels like emotion of this grief are
Mhm.
should be shared collectively. So
Mhm. Mhm.
there is like a strong cultural belief that even if I'm not directly affected, I must mourn together with the nation because it might happen to my family as well.
Mm. So
Mm-hmm.
this grows out of Confucian
Yeah.
ideology or Confucian
Mm-hmm.
culture, right? That the collective is really what's incredible, the most important thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. No, it
And
feels. No, go ahead. Yeah.
there was a raise of people saying that why we should be doing this, like why we should have the pressure to do this.
Hmm.
This time there were some people like saying YouTubers should have the freedom to upload their videos because that is so related to their income. Like it's not like
Hmm.
normal people would go to their work, like they should make their money, but people were saying some bad some I mean they did not agree to this
They were
action.
questioning it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Right. So if I go to work, if I go to my job, whatever my job is, well, if my job
Mm-hmm.
is I'm a YouTuber, I communicate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember in the Halloween crush 2 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, in which, so many people died. It's a very similar thing, a period of
Mm-hmm.
mourning. So this isn't a one-off thing. I mean, this is fairly regular when there's a big tragedy.
Yeah, exactly. And even for like the influencer and celebrities, they show like a big fund or charity to the victims
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
show their respect, and actually fans really love that action, and some fans
Mm-hmm.
follow the stars
Mm-hmm.
and influencers. And even there was like a really interesting point this time in the airport crash, which was people um, paid to the cafes near Muan Airport first,
Mm-hmm.
like prepaid for the victims to drink, I mean, use the cafe and restaurants freely. That was a new
Uh,
act.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, so the
Mm-hmm.
people for the families who all came down and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, that's so
And
I think the biggest thing, I mean, as I think about my country, right? And I
mm-hmm.
think about us trying to do this. I mean, there's just this community. It's just so very different here, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
communitarian moral orientation in Korea, this kind of sense
Mm-hmm.
of right and wrong is so much determined by what's right and wrong for the community.
Mm-hmm.
That it's so strong in Korea compared to in the United States and most countries of the West. And there's good and bad in this, but the good, this is a good side of it. The fact that a nation could come together and
Mm-hmm.
feel the pain, like the families, the victims, and not just the families, but all the friends, and you feel, you can feel held by
Yeah.
by
Mm-hmm.
an entire nation,
Mm-hmm.
through this.
And also, like, I was keeping an eye on the issue really closely, like who were the families and then who were the victims and how did the family act. And it really teared me out, seriously. And all the comments were saying, like, since there were so many family trips, it was near Christmas, we really
Hmm.
felt the pain like bigger.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
and they feel held by that, of course,
Yeah.
right? That's
Mm-hmm.
how it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's how with any tragedy in that way, when the community comes out for the tragedy,
Mm-hmm.
it's so valuable for people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think about that, here we had a just really tragic plane crash last week,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
and within hours it was politicized. And I think, wow, but this wasn't politicized in Korea, right? This
Not
tragedy. I
that
mean,
big of an event. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. No, it's like people just set their politics aside for a moment and yeah. Well, that's cool. It's nice because I think this is one of those p- parts of Korean culture that for me as a sociologist I find so fascinating
Mm-hmm.
and so really thoughtful and interesting and cool. I
Mm-hmm.
really appreciate it in the modern age uh
Mm-hmm.
how you as a nation can have a response like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And also for myself as well, I feel uh better if I show respect to this type of big tragedy. Really, if
mm.
it makes me show respect to the families.
And show respect to yourself and to existence and to the creator, the life force,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Really, yeah.
yeah, like why we take a moment and just bow our heads and say a prayer
Mm-hmm.
to whether it's whatever we believe in, a fate or a God or something. Just take a moment. It's really
Mm-hmm.
a very thoughtful thing. There's a lot of love and caring there, and in the end, we're all connected here. So let's
Yeah.
show that in a way.
So
Yeah.
I really want to learn like how other countries mourn in these type of big tragedy. That's not the case in the US, right?
Mm.
Is it?
Yeah, no. And in other places. So well, we're going to have a conversation right now in my class about that and
Mm-hmm.
see what people say, what they have to
Mm-hmm.
say. So, hey,
Yeah,
so
I should
thanks.
definitely check out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'll have to watch. Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah, you are I enjoy, your assessment of
Mm-hmm.
things, and you and I have a really nice connection in that way. So,
Thank you so much,
yes.
Sam, as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you.
Victoria. I'm from South Korea. I'm a freshman in chemistry.
Hi, I'm Aoi. I'm a marketing major. I'm a junior and a Korean minor.
Okay. So, so we're going to start with Victoria. So you were in Seoul in this period, right?
Incheon.
Wait.
I was in Incheon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what do you think about what Soomin said? Do you have anything that you would add to it?
Definitely, like, she has covered most of it. Like, the whole country collectively goes into mourning. I feel like your behavior during this time is very important.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is true that, like, I feel like everyone goes into mourning because, especially what happened could have happened to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was definitely a situation where, like, it was out of everyone's control, and I feel like when it was happening, I actually saw it live on television,
Mm-hmm.
and I think my sister has said that, she feels something like personal towards it because I'm the only one in the family that really goes out, like, of the country a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and like during that period, like that week when it happened, I also got on the plane to come back here. And I think she was really worried because of what happened.
So how did you personally act differently in this time? Like, what are some things that you did that were different than what you would have done?
I think definitely, like, I think everyone's kind of expected to maybe tone it down on how they act on social media because that's where everyone sees you.
So tone it down, meaning don't really put yourself out there.
It's more like it's a time where, like, it's very sensitive. Maybe watch your words that might affect other people.
Mm-hmm. That could affect the people who suffered, who are
Yeah.
directly connected.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Did your family come together and make any decisions about anything that you would do, or?
I think personally, like, it's not like your family will come together and talk about it. It's more like you kind of know. Like, maybe like if your friend does something, you could just tell them, like, hey, maybe don't do that. But, like, in general, it's more like how you like see yourself
Yeah.
in the public eye.
But you're checking other people. You're, like, kind of watching other people, and yeah. So, okay. So Rima, and Aoi. Okay. So I selected you because because Japanese culture is very similar to Korean culture. So I want to hear what you have to say about that. But also Saudi culture. If I could list, if I drew up a list of cultures that were most leaning toward a communitarian moral order, who would be most likely to have a a period of mourning like this and that people would follow it, Saudi culture would be near the top. And so I thought, okay, let's get somebody. It would be really nice to hear from you. So, so think about Japan. How does this week of mourning, well, first off, what Soomin said, how did that strike you as a...
Honestly, in Japan, we don't do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, we feel sorry for them, but we wouldn't be like, oh, let's dress black and, like, you know, like, stop all our, like, fun activities. Like,
so you haven't had a period of mourning that you know
never
about?
experienced, like, in school having to do that, or like I would see it on the news and like the newscaster would be like, I'm very sorry for your loss, but like that's about it. I don't really like we don't participate in like a specific mourning activity.
And you've been back in Japan for, I think you said like the past 13 years or so?
Yeah.
So but maybe before you went back, have there been times, do you know of?
There's been like a terrorist attack,
yeah,
but
a couple.
like in the subway,
Yep.
but that's like before before I was born.
Yep.
But
yeah.
there's been so many tragedies, like plane crashes,
Yeah.
in the past, and I really don't remember seeing any, like, you know, the one that during Halloween,
Yeah.
like we don't do like protests or even like mourning like activities
Yeah.
together.
So it's interesting because Korean and Japanese cultures are so similar in so many ways, right? So what do you personally think about Koreans doing this? Is that like how would you, as someone who's Japanese, go like, whoa, man? Because for me, it's a first off, it's just like, dude, it would never happen here. You know what I mean? Okay, it's just it's big. It's so big. A week. Everybody's wearing dark colors. Nobody's putting themselves out there, right? Does that strike you as, would you expect that as a person, a Japanese citizen? Would you kind of expect that of Koreans? Or like, I don't know, how do you...
Yeah, I think they have like they like to unite. Like unity is their big thing. Like
Yeah.
personally, I feel that. So, but like Japanese people are more like, I don't know, it would take a lot for everyone to do that.
Yeah.
Because like we do have similar cultures. Like if someone's doing something different, that's like thought to be like bad, right? So,
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's never happened before, and I don't know if it will happen like in the future.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very... Rima, okay, thanks. We'll come back for sure. So again, when I think about countries who would be most likely to call for a week of mourning, and everybody would follow, right? Really, it's just everyone's going to follow it. I mean, the Saudis are one of those countries, right? But yeah, definitely, people are going to follow that. How do you think of it? What do you think about what Soomin talked about in Korea and this experience as a Saudi?
I mean, as a Saudi Arabia, from what I've seen and what I've lived in our culture, human belonging plays a huge role in our culture. So, but however, we don't usually like dress all black and go out. But what we always do is sending prayers, donations to the one in needs.
But you feel it. But what I see for Saudis is this connection to Saudis, to other people in the nation. Like you're very connected. Am I missing that, or do you feel that?
No, that's totally true, but that does not stop us from like sending prayers to other countries and our people.
Yeah,
in
for
other
sure. No, for sure. But stick with your country for a second. So when I say, hey, you would be at the top of the list of countries that would be able to call for a week of mourning, and everybody would be on board, and people aren't going to be out doing their own thing and that kind of stuff. Is that surprising to you that I would say that about your country, or do you feel like, yeah, that makes sense?
I mean, although there's like a strong connection between each and one, each of one of us. But however, I feel like in these like sensitive moments, we all like stick back together and just be there for each other. However, like life does not stop at this point.
Yeah, for sure. But you know, you have very much kind of a monoculture, right, is the idea here, meaning that there's so many similarities among the citizens of your nation, right? Say with Japan, like you have many more foreigners coming into Japan than Korea has, for a longer period of time than Korea. For Korea, this is a very recent thing. In Korea, it's less than 5% of, when you go to Korea and you walk around, it's less than 5%. It's like 3%, really, 3.5%, but imagine less than 5% are people who do not have ancestry from Korea, meaning that, you know, they trace their ancestry back many, many generations. So when you walk around, you're seeing other Koreans. And so in Saudi, it's very similar, right? You know, you're seeing other people who are from this land. And it's a new country, obviously, but still. All right, let me go. What I just said about Japan, does that make sense? Like the Koreanness is this versus the Japanese-ness with foreigners, right?
Yeah, like definitely. I went back like last summer, and I thought like Kyoto was like I don't know, like everyone was foreigners. Like it didn't feel like I was like home.
Yeah.
Because it's like flooded with foreigners. I'm like, am I really in Japan? Because like even the famous like Shibuya crossing, every single person I see and pass, they're all foreigners. And like I felt like a foreigner because I'm literally the only Japanese person crossing that crosswalk.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And it kind of felt weird because definitely 3 years ago, like right after COVID, it was not like that. And it's beginning to like change. So
I think I
definitely
read
see
that there's this year, about 130 million people will visit Japan. I was at the Shibuya crossing probably when it was in 2008 in the middle of winter. It was probably February. So it's not a popular time. And I didn't see, there were no foreign. I mean, everywhere I went, I was the only white guy, you know, constantly. And now in Korea, that's very similar for me. Where I stay in Korea, there really aren't very many foreigners at all. So, Max and Journey. Do you, what do you think about like my conversation with Soomin?
I thought that it's pretty cool that a whole nation can come together in mourning. But I can see why we wouldn't be able to do that in the United States.
Why? What do you see?
Like why we wouldn't be able to?
Yeah. What do you see here?
A lot more. Like mourning's more personal, like for families, sort of. And I feel like we're sort of used to tragedies in the United States, so
we become
sort of desensitized to them.
Desensitized in a way, and we don't. Why do you think it's more personal or like family oriented? I mean, that's actually the question, right? Which I would like to ask you about in Saudi Arabia, right? Like when I went, like I remember I went to a wedding in Kuwait, and it's like, I was like 8,000 people, man. I'm like, wait, what? It's like, because you know, you don't build the community as the community, right? Like, I'm like, there's so many people. It's a wedding. I thought it was at some big sporting event, but that's like everybody. You know, you have these big communities, and so that's a thing, right? Hang on, we'll come back to it a second. Journey, how about you? What do you think about? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about that conversation I had?
I found it very interesting, honestly, that like you said, they can all like just come together and mourn, because I feel like in America we couldn't do that. I feel like in a way we are sort of self-absorbed. Like we think about ourselves way more than like other people. And so of course like we would feel bad, like we would like feel bad about the situation, but like we would like maybe post about it and then go on with our lives.
We'd also probably joke about it. People would be very quickly making jokes about plane crashes. And people were making jokes about the Washington Plane crash.
Yeah.
This tragedy. Right? I mean, I was watching it. There's the memes and within hours, I'm like, oh my God. So like in Korea, that would get shut down real fast, man.
Right.
You would be, right, Victoria, you'd be canceled in like a second. And Koreans are, man, when they cancel you, man. This is not like, it's a whole different world. So,
Yeah.
so you, what do you, what do you think keeps us from that? Just that connection. That you, for example, what would keep you from, this crash happened. Well, anyway, when the crash happened in D.C. a week and a half ago, like what was your connection to that, or what was your reaction to it?
I felt really bad, honestly, because one of the people that died, I went on his TikTok and like I was seeing like all of his reposts and all this stuff, and like he was just very excited for like his career and his future, and yeah, I mean I felt really bad.
And what did you do with those feelings? Like where did you?
Well, any video that I saw like about it, like I would like repost about it.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, okay. And why did you repost it? Like what is it that?
I feel like it should have more attention to it. Like people should know about it. I don't know, cause like, like I felt bad.
You mean just like anybody who's?
Yeah, anyone really.
Why? Why should they know about it? Like, what is the?
I mean, it's very devastating.
Okay.
And so.
Devastating for the people.
For the people.
So that's what Soomin said, right? It's devastating. So it's like, oh, take a moment.
Yeah.
And when you did that in the privacy of your own phone or laptop. Did you feel like you were doing something, you were connecting yourself to the rest of the country?
In a way, a little bit. In a way.
Okay. Max, so what she just said, how do you relate to that as an American? Did you, first off, this tragedy in the U.S., were you connected to it in any way? Or?
No, and I didn't like do anything about it,
Do you
honestly.
remember it happening?
No.
Do you know it happened though, right?
Yes, I do know it happened.
But you don't know like how many people died or?
No, I don't know any of that.
And do you feel some kind? Okay, hang on. You're not on the spot. No one's judging you because if we were in Korea, this would be a different story. We're not. We're in the U.S., so no one's judging you, right? Okay. How come? Like, what do you think? I mean, this is tragic. Like, what did you? I just want to know. You're going to be emblematic of the many, many people, which is probably most people in the room, actually, who are. Why not?
Yeah, like I recognize that it's a tragedy. And I felt sorry for the victims, but I had no personal connection to them. I don't know who they are. I just know that they were a human being who tragically died. And that's just a sad thing. But posting on social media and stuff, I don't think that really helps. If there was like a charity or something, maybe. But I think social media is sort of just a way that people claim that they're helping, but they're sort of just pretending that they care. Not that you didn't pretend that you care.
No, don't go ahead. We're going to ask Journey right here. Did you really care or were you just, dude, hang on. By the way, you did not say that's what they're doing. You said that's how you interpret it, that people are pretending. You didn't tell the world, that's what so you didn't say like, Journey, that's what you're doing. You're just pretending. He said, that's my interpretation. So like, I don't do it, but.
Yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from. Yeah, personally, I did care, and I just thought it was like important to like shed light of it.
Do you think you're unique as someone from this culture? Do you feel like you're unique that you cared and you posted and? Not an extreme exception, but do you think you're probably at the end of the spectrum that's a little bit unique, uncommon?
I don't know if I would consider myself unique.
In that way?
In that way, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I was on LinkedIn today. I don't know how I ended up on LinkedIn. I had to jump on to do something. And I saw a post about there's one young woman who was a lawyer, and she died, and there were people were posting about her life and different things, and so many people were speaking to her family. It was just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and I thought, wow, okay, that's a thing, you know? Hey, Rima, if a plane with 100 or 150 citizens from Saudi Arabia crashed and they all died, what would happen in your country? At the airport in Riyadh, let's say, what would happen?
Let's not pray for that for happening.
No, okay, it's not going to happen. But what would happen?
I think the first thing that would happen is like my government will definitely send support for everyone who got injured or for everyone who died there. Also, we have mosques.
They would immediately send support.
Definitely. Whether it's like financial or whether it's just emotional support.
Everybody would be held. Definitely financial, for sure. But everybody would be held by your government.
Definitely.
Okay. And would the government call for a period of mourning, do you think?
Actually, something similar to that happened in a while, and we've got part of my government that has called people and actually like express how sorry they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. In addition to that, we as a community, I felt like although like Saudi Arabia is a huge country, but somehow we all connected to each other, and it's not surprising at all to feel like sorry for people even if we don't know them, because we actually came from just one religion and one community. Yeah, because this is my point about, it's a smaller nation, right? One thing about the U.S. is this is a big nation. We're 3 million people. That's a lot. Korea is 51 million people. Saudi Arabia is just thinking of the Saudis, right? Not expats and foreign workers and so on. You have this sense of connection in the way that Koreans do. You're related, you're connected to one another. And in addition to that, from me personally, I came from the Eastern Province, which is very, very diverse, more than anyone could know. So we are very used to like feeling sorry and like help each other out, even from like different cultures or different religion or different background, because we just have a lot of like international students. We have foreign. So we're used to that.
It's where the Aramco headquarters are in the Eastern Province. So that's the thing, right? Like when you travel around and you meet another citizen from Saudi Arabia, how much of a connection do you feel just naturally with that person? Like,
I feel 100% of the connection.
So you talk to them immediately?
Yeah,
right?
Immediately. Like I remember when I came first here, I didn't know like anyone really.
Yeah.
And I was kind of surprised of like how the U.S. culture is like, it's just you can pass by someone that you know in your high school, but you never say hi to them.
Yeah.
Which did not happen with my community here at all. I remember my first day here, everyone got to know each other, like
so
immediately.
You just know. Yeah, so immediately. I know this is like when I meet people, it's different cultures are different, around the world, but some people just they have this affinity, and they're immediately connected in this deep way.
Definitely, yeah, I agree with that.
That's do you have that? You probably don't have that. Well, maybe you do. Actually, do you have that?
That would probably never happen.
Yeah, not in the same way.
Like, I'm like kind of Americanized, so like if I saw someone on the street and they look Japanese, I'm gonna be like, hey, are you Japanese?
Yeah.
And then I would feel like, oh my God, we're Japanese, yay. But then like if you're in a different country and like if I see Japanese tourists, maybe I wouldn't talk to them. Like maybe like they wouldn't even talk to me. Like we don't have that. Like I don't know, maybe we're just shy. But we don't do that at all. Like
it's not the same thing. Whereas you would do that if you're in.
Oh yeah, I went to many people in my first week of
Frankfurt,
freshman
Germany,
year.
at a restaurant, and these people are speaking Arabic, and you're realizing, they're Saudis.
Yeah, I would smile.
Say something.
Yeah, I would smile to them.
Yeah.
Maybe make some conversation.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what happened when I came in my freshman year.
Yeah.
Everyone just came and like say hi to me.
Huh. And we wouldn't do that. I don't see American. Sometimes I do. I'm somewhere, I see Americans. I'm like, hey, yeah, where are you from, man? Huh. So, What do you? All right.
Go for it. Oh, all right. So I grew up in Japan as well. Back in 2011 when the earthquake hit.
Yeah. I was okay. Go
I
ahead.
remember as a kid on TV
Yep.
there was videos of buildings falling on top of people dead on the street because of bricks and all kinds of things falling down in the city. I remember seeing that along with another tragedy of Shinzo Abe getting shot.
Yeah.
Those type of things. I find it very similar as if it's like a national tragedy that actually kind of affects everyone.
Did they call, like when the earthquake happened, or Shinzo Abe? Did they call for a period of mourning?
It wasn't kind of a period of mourning. It was kind of, everyone kind of knew that it's something important to mourn about. It's something that affected everyone. People died along with the fact of, it ruined the economy for a little bit. I mean, it affected the economy. There was a lot of things that affected it, and I think it's the same for everyone. When it affects their country, everyone kind of goes into a slight couple-day period of mourning. It seems.
Got you. So this is similar to what you said, right? But the government doesn't come out and officially, like here right away, the government came out and officially said.
It was all over media, basically. It was more media rather than government kind of pushing things.
Got you. Yeah, got you. So it's not. Do you remember like how much you felt like a kind of an obligation to follow?
It wasn't more like an obligation. It was more of like fear, I guess, that because like the aftershocks kept coming, the earthquakes didn't stop.
Yeah.
So it was a fear that it might happen again, and it might be bigger. Buildings are gonna fall. The roof's gonna come down on top of us.
Okay, so that in part is there's a self. The self is really important here, right? So in that case, hey, we might get another earthquake, and I could lose my house or I could die. And in Korea, Soomin said that, well, yeah, but we all fly in airplanes, and that could be any of us at any moment. But that kind of sense of, but there's still that sense. So Victoria, I want to go back to you and ask you, since you're here, and maybe there's another Korean. Is there any other Koreans who were in Korea during this? At this time? That sense of, there's this very delicate balance, right, of following along, and this, I want to hear what the two of you think about this, right? Following along because you genuinely feel it, because you genuinely feel a connection to other citizens of your nation, right? And you're also doing it because, I feel the connection, but I don't want to stand out. Like there's a saying in Korea that you don't want to be the nail that sticks out, because if you're the nail that sticks out, you're going to get pounded down. So when you're a communitarian-oriented moral order, you're always watching other people. You're always aware of other people because you're getting your cues from other people all the time. So everything you do, you're thinking constantly, what are other people thinking about me right now? What are they saying? If I'm sitting in the social 19 class and I don't see anybody right now, but I put my dude, here, bro, just like put your feet up on the back of his chair, right? Yeah. All right. So here, if I'm in 119 and can you see, you got his feet right there, bro? And he puts his feet on the chair. It's like he could be, what would be more likely here is like, I'm going to put my feet on the chair, whatever. How many fights are there in the U.S. about that kind of thing? But if you're in a communitarian, but this guy, he can't sit back and hit his feet. So, but you would be thinking in a place with a communitarian moral order, he's going to be thinking, I'm going to bring shame on myself if other people see me doing that. That's really shameful. And people will look at me in a really negative way. And that will be bad. That's bad. I'm not being a good citizen. I'm not being a good person. Not that, and it's not just that I'll get in trouble because Sam will yell at me. It's that I will bring shame upon me, and I'll bring shame upon my family and my friends. And I don't want to do that. And there's a big difference there. It's subtle, but it's big. All right, thanks, dude. How's that feel to put your feet up there? Doesn't feel good, right? So, Victoria, can you just, and bro, if you want to weigh in too. Can you say that sense of that shame, like what I just said right there? It's like you're always watching. You want to make sure that you fit in with everyone else, and you're a good citizen because you want society to run well. You want to be part of it. Can you?
I feel like. Okay, so I do feel like a genuine connection to it most of the time, because like the situations that happen, like that could have happened to me is the bigger thing. It's like I think most of the times when these things happen, like usually my friends or people I knew were in the area, and like you kind of realize like, oh, that could have like happened to someone near me or me. But also like the other half is I am looking out for how people look at me, of how I react to the situation. Because since like I think it's because of the culture that I've grown up in, it's like if something happens and you don't seem to care as much as other people, it's like you are bringing shame to yourself, because to us it doesn't make sense. Like if something happens and someone else says like, oh, why do I need to care? I feel like everyone would be really shocked, because it's like, why don't you care? Like this happened to someone in your community. In your community. And here, for the two of you, well, maybe less so you, but this guy for sure. No, for in the United States, right? But the community is smaller. Right? So it's like, no, but my family is my community, or my extended family, or people that live right around me, or my dorm floor, or my club team, or just the people, the other Saudis who are studying at Penn State. But of course that wouldn't be, right? Because it's a bigger community. But for us it would be like, yeah, well, I only really need to care for people directly around me. But here, in a place like Korea, where 96.5% of the people living around you are Koreans, and you share a lot in common with them, the community is much bigger and it's much stronger. And of course that's what has allowed Korea to become one of the most powerful nations in the world, because they have used that to their advantage. So how would that be in the United States? Max, let me ask you, like, how would it be if here, like, you really felt a connection to all these other Americans? And you're like, yeah.
I mean, I'd be surprised to be connected to like 300 million people. And since there is a lot of, tragedies like school shootings, airplanes crashing.
Dude, every day we'd be in a nonstop period of mourning.
Exactly. So that's why it'd be cool if I felt connected to everybody, but it's just too large. So it sort of seems impossible. I feel connected to like just, you're a fellow human being and your life matters. Yeah. But I can't, I'll mourn for you a little bit. But if I don't know who you are or what you did, maybe you're a terrible person. I have no idea.
Right. And you're not, and Victoria isn't thinking that, or Soomin isn't thinking that in Korea about some of the people on the plane. It's just like, no, you're part of this. And that's a really cool thing about also the United States, that we have this disconnect in a way. That's also cool. I mean, see, like one way or the other way, they're both fascinating. It doesn't really matter. How would it be for you if everybody was stopped and was posting on social media and was for this plane crash, if we had even a single day, and would you wear black if, like, Donald Trump had said, hey, we're going to have a day of mourning for this terrible tragedy? I want everyone to wear black. Would you have worn black?
That's a good question. I don't know if I personally maybe go all out like that, like wearing the black. Yeah. But I would feel bad, and like I would like show that I do feel bad in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, but wearing black would be wearing black. That would be
right.
See, that's a perfect answer for an American. Like, really, that's like, okay, yeah, I'll go this far, but I'm not sure I'm going to go all the way. Because that's like, you're asking me to do something that I don't typically do. And like, yeah, I'm going to stick my neck out. But I can be on my phone, though, and be like, whoa, in the privacy of my little world here, which is a big world, but a little world.
Right.
Yeah. Huh.
My question is to the Americans. I'm building on the point you just made because I want to see how polarized you guys are. Let's say a plane crash happened and most of the people in it are like Republicans, and let's say you're a Democrat. Would you sympathize with them as much as if they were like all like Democratic?
Okay, let's just go one or the other. You're a Republican and they were all Democrat. They were coming back from the Democratic National Convention. Or you're a Democrat and they're coming back from the Republican National Convention. Do you think that would you would respond differently? Go ahead, Max.
Personally, I couldn't care less about their political affiliation.
Yeah, because he's an engineer, so it doesn't matter to him.
Yeah, but you already saw how the last plane crash was used for political like attacks. So it's sort of like built into our culture to sort of make everything political. But for me personally, I wouldn't care. They're a person. If they're a Democrat or Republican, it doesn't mean that they're already a bad person or a good person. They're just a person.
Yeah, this is actually a really good question, because, especially as an outsider, because, yeah, Dima's Saudi also, so you're thinking about this in this way, yeah. Would it matter to you?
No, it wouldn't.
So when you were reading that piece that you were reading about one of the victims, that you weren't thinking at all about anything of their background or anything like that?
No.
Yeah. Guy, do you have anybody? Yeah, man.
I'm here to sort of expand on some of the conversation real quick before positing a question to the people native to Korea and Japan. And also sort of tie this into previous conversations on diversity. To answer the question, what keeps us from cultural cohesion required for a similar national mourning period, I would argue that diversity is actually a pretty big contributor to our lack of ability to do something like that. Racial diversity, I would argue, is like part of it because people naturally have an in-group preference, but I would also argue it's the least important measure of diversity in this context. I would argue that far more relevant measures of diversity that inhibit the social cohesion are cultural and religious diversity.
Yeah. I agree with you, by the way.
Yeah, these factors significantly influence the values that people hold, and the more aligned a society's values, the more cohesive the society.
Yeah.
The more things people have in common, be that shared religion, ancestry, valued goals, etc., the more they tend to care about each other on average. How this relates to communitarian social morality, I would argue that it naturally emerges from societies with high social cohesion. So the panel, I would ask, to what degree do you think your closeness with other Koreans or Japanese is a byproduct of your social homogeneity?
Yeah, or Saudis here, yeah.
Yeah, or
Dude,
Saudis.
Hey, by the way, thanks for writing that out, because I like how it's really clear. And I'm 100%. This is one of the problems of focusing on diversity. When we focus on diversity, we're focusing on difference, and we're highlighting difference. And that's a good thing, because it's like, oh, difference. This is great. Let's hear what's so. Let's talk about you. You're not just a Penn State student, right? You're a Penn State student from Saudi Arabia. So tell me all about Saudi Arabia. Tell me all about how your Penn State experience is for you, versus, oh, how is it for you? How is it for you? And so we're separating ourselves automatically, and that like kind of is going to lead to this kind of thing, right? But I think you said the fact that you have so much in common. Like when you meet somebody from Saudi Arabia at a restaurant in Frankfurt or in Tokyo or in Seoul, it's like you know that person at some level.
Yeah, definitely. My personal experience here as a Saudi at Penn State was honestly great, because I had a great community that helped me out through every single thing that I went through my freshman year and also through my sophomore year. Whether it's studies, whether it's academics or anything personal, everyone is just there for everyone.
Yeah, they're just there. So Saudis have that. Well, lots of different student groups have it. The Chinese have that. Several years ago in China, when I was doing a lot of work with Chinese students in China, and like before you even come to Penn State, man, if you get admitted to Penn State, you connect with future Penn Staters in China. There's like whole student manuals, a student manual for Penn State written in Mandarin, that you're reading this back before you ever come here. You're reading this 100-page manual all about Penn State, everything you need to know. It's in Mandarin. It's like you're connected, man, already before you get here. So it's like, yeah, that's wild. You don't have that. You didn't know that, bro. You didn't have it. So this idea that he just had about this homogeneity, like this Korean, you feel a Koreanness? That Koreanness is, but you don't feel it so much in Japan. But you're different, right? Because you're very multicultural. Like you're U.S. and Japan together. Like you're split 50-50, it seems like, right? So you can go one way or the other. Wait, hang on. So like if I said, hey, here's what I want you to do. I want you to spend a month as an American. 100%, man. Just leave Japan behind, be an American. You could do that.
I could. Like when we did like the code switching thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when I like am living in Japan, if I wear this on the train, like I would get judged so much.
Mm-hmm.
My mom said, that's embarrassing, please don't wear that.
Mm-hmm.
So like sometimes like being different is nice here.
Yeah.
But it's not a good thing in Japan. So I changed like everything, my style, the way I like talk, and like, I just like try to be more Japanese.
Because you want to fit.
Because I want to belong to
Yeah.
I want to feel a belonging, like some kind of belonging.
So now imagine, here's this period of mourning where the entire nation for a week is mourning, is feeling it. You go to a coffee shop, you go walk down the street, everybody is dressed in dark colors. Everybody is thinking about this. And you are sending so much energy to the victims, right? To the people. And then that if this happens to me, I'm going to receive the same energy. Like that has so much value. Whereas like here in the US, we don't have any of that. Bro.
There's one thing that I wanted to challenge in the narrative of the class is there's also a lot of cases in mourning for U.S., especially for soldiers who are stationed outside, that we do have this mourning thing that happens as well. But also for Koreans, or I'm not too familiar with Saudi. Do you also mourn about the Koreans who live outside of Korea the same way you would in inland?
Well, yeah, because there were. Most recently, there was a couple, like the figure skaters who died in that plane crash. There were a couple Koreans.
And also, I meant like not just Koreans, but also like Korean Korean heritage people who may be American but also Korean. Do you guys also affiliate those in the same mourning sense as you would to just Koreans?
No, I think you got to be really inside the country in a way. Yeah, I mean that's part of what it is. By the way, when 9/11 happened here in the United States, you wouldn't know, you guys, you don't know this. When 9/11 happened, we didn't have an official period of mourning, but that's the only time in my lifetime, a little bit when JFK was assassinated, but I was only 3 years old, so I don't remember. I can only know what people told me. But when 9/11 happened, we had a week of mourning. And it was like, but nobody called for it. It's just everything stopped. There were no commercials on television. The late night shows, everything was like, there was nothing. The comedy, no comedy, very limited. And the first thing that happened, the first late night show, when these comedians, and they do their little opening stand-up act, I forget who did it. It might have been David Letterman. I don't remember who did it. But they did one of these opening monologues that was humorous. And it was, everyone knew it was coming. Like people here said, like, okay, it's going to happen tonight. They're going to break the ice on this, and then it happened, and then suddenly, slowly, it just started going again. But no company wanted to be the first company that had a commercial shown on television. So that was 9/11. That was big, but that was the only time in my lifetime that anything happened in that way. Final question, bro, or comment, and then we'll go.
So earlier, I don't remember who it was, but somebody was talking about how in America, it's like there's too many sad stories to mourn for them all.
Yeah.
Right? Like every week you turn on the TV, you see something sad, and that is an unfortunate fact. But I'm trying to figure out, like, if we were to change our mentality about these situations, would we also change the outcome, right?
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Right.
Like, dude, here, think about this. School shootings. Look, hang on. Here, listen to this, because I want to make sure you hear it correctly. Whether you support the Second Amendment or don't support the Second Amendment, but think about this. We have a society in which we have these school shootings, and the best response that we can have to it is we teach children to run and to hide. That's it. As a nation, that's like the best we're going to do. Put security guards in our schools. We're going to do all this kind of stuff. It's like, whoa, man. But imagine if we actually sat down as a nation and said, hey, what are we going to do? Yeah, that's what you're saying. Like, what if we sat down? Yeah. Figure out how we're going to, instead of, would the problems go away? Yeah, they would lessen for sure. Yeah. Hey, listen, can we have a round of applause for everybody? Thank you. Hey, y'all, listen, we're going to put the quiz up. And remember, if you're in the web section, you're going to get an email telling you where to go in Thomas Building, okay? So have a safe weekend.